All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our second podcast. My name is Hamad, and I have with me Yacine. Um, cool. And the topic of discussion today that we want to debrief about is some of the biggest supply chain risks that have happened over time and that are happening this year. And there was an interesting article yesterday published about, especially about automotive manufacturing, of like how climate change and environmental changes are making all of those big corporations reconsider their investments of where they open their factories. And yeah, it's an interesting topic, especially given what supply chain has been through over the years. Cool, yes, and so maybe this time we'll do it a bit more of a discussion. So yeah, what's your thoughts about supply chain risks and how have you seen it overall?
Yeah, my thought on this is that it's a mess right now. I think pre-pandemic, it was kind of rough, but like in a somewhat stable state. Like people knew the risk and stuff. But from my discussion with like buyers and then my visit literally to suppliers, especially in the metal manufacturing sector and in aerospace and more in that niche. What I've seen is that there's just way lot more of them, of different the kind of risk, and they are accelerating. It's like the previous risk is, and the previous like disaster or whatever in the supply chain is not even done yet. There's like two more that piled up. Yeah, so I think doing a bit of an overview of like what we saw and then what was the impact of each of them, and like how we roughly think you can mitigate some of these risks. I think will be helpful for the listener. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I would say let's start off with the most spicy one, which is what just recently happened with one of the biggest aerospace manufacturers with this data breach and everything that happened. They released this statement, I guess, a few weeks ago, explaining what had happened and how unauthorized access was sort of granted to different parties. They still haven't figured the whole thing out, I guess. It's
Yeah.
still under investigation and there's still statements that need to come up. But how does this happen, yes? In like a big company with billions of dollars, maybe like their cybersecurity team is as big as few major corporations. How does it still happen in 2022 that some unknown parties can get access? Like you would imagine that this would be, hack proof and penetration proof.
Yeah, it's a severe security risk is a big one. It's a big one, and the thing is, everybody knows it's out there, right? But when it hits you like a brick, and then it just stopped everything. So, what you said about this aerospace manufacturer is one. I had another one, which is from a Vienna company, had 35 factories shut down. Like the ERP, email, communication system, everything was bricked because it was a ransomware attack, which means that there's a malware that you click on it and then it's downloaded into your computer, and then it will just like encrypt everything. So by encrypting everything, you can't use any of this because right now it's just like literally garbled data, and you need to get the decryption key from the attacker. So you have to pay them, right? That's one of the big type of attack that is currently hitting manufacturer. We have, I'm not going to name them, but there's some people a company that we work with that have been attacked on this front. Manufacturer, even smaller one, are also touched by this. It seems to be a trend, especially like since 2021, where more and more manufacturer people in the company in the industrial sector are targeted. The reason why this happened is like from what I've seen in all of the different cases that I've read about, is the usually the manufacturing and industrial company have a bit of a a bit behind in terms of like their uh, their technology, just in general, right? So you can see some of them are still using like some older version of Windows because their ERP that they bought like 25 years ago work with like that specific thing. What happened in these instances that there's just more vulnerability that can happen, right? Over time, you'll see like um, the update in the software or the OS. They are there because there's a bunch of security breach that they're fixing over time, or like some backdoors and things like that that they're patching. Um, but what happened when you have a whole industry that that um, is a bit more digitally older, using older system, is that there's just more of these little holes to poke into. And if you know for sure that a company is using like this version of Windows and it didn't have like the company is big enough, so the chance that some of their system are not yet updated, and you know the IT department in these companies, it's not like their top priority, or it's not initially properly staffed and stuff. So you know for sure that there's not enough resources to patch all of these things or update everything, and there might be somewhere to that you can get into. So I think this is one core component of it. The other core component is that there's a lot of surface area, right? There's a lot of surface area where you can uh, 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 put an attack vector in place, right? In tech company in general, let's say like Google or like whatever, like Oracle or whatever. Um, there's, just by the fact of how the industry is set up, there's a bit less reliance of uh, actively always needing to be like talking with outside parties and receiving requests from outside, and all of these different kind of parties, whether small or big, right? But in manufacturing and in specific, let's say the procurement department, they have no choice. They have to talk with all of these other folks, right? And there might be new suppliers. So the case for a social engineering attack is much easier to do here if there's, just by the nature of the industry, more doors that are open, and it doesn't take a lot. Like if you can get one credential properly, or if you get one guy to download the wrong stuff, it goes into the company server, it will just like mess up the whole system. So in my view and in my analysis of this, these are the two components that come into play. And I would say until it keep working, we're just going to see this more and more. So if you're working in manufacturing and industrial sector, and you know that you're using some old system, you have to be extra careful, and you have to educate yourself and your teammates and the whole organization, literally, on how to like better protect yourself and make like security a core thing, because there's no choice. And the thing is, let's say with ransomware, where you have to pay the attacker, there's literally not no other choice. You can, if you didn't back up your stuff properly, it's either this or your factory are shut down for a while. And there's a case where within 10 days of the factory shut down, that Vienna company lost 4% of their stock value. So it has immediate impact,
Wow.
right? You can sell your stuff,
Wow.
your company is getting
Yeah.
devalued, and your brand is going to the garbage because you literally are
Yeah.
picked by another an attacker. And on top of this all, the only solution you have is to pay them, and you're gonna pay them. You have no choice. You're gonna pay them, and then what will happen is that other attacker will learn about this and will be like, "Oh, manufacturing companies are a good
Yeah.
segment of the market to attend to," right?
Yeah. True. True. And like with blackmail, like even if you pay the person 6 months after the thing, he wants more money from you. He understands your entire infrastructure. It's not going to take him more time to get inside it again and sort of expose you again. So yeah, you kind of have no choice again than to continue paying him. And unlike other kinds of attacks, This one is very hard to trace because these guys are super sophisticated. You can't know. It's very difficult for you to figure out who's the person, where is he located, how are they doing this. So yeah, and
Yeah.
it's
You like you can't even touch like government infrastructure. At some point, I think last year in the U.S., like literally the infrastructure of the government for some, I think like some oil thing or whatever. I don't remember. It could not be used, and they had to pay the attacker, and I think they paid. But there's interesting dynamic with ransomware. I'm not going to delve too much about this, but like they have a high incentive of making a good transaction with their customer, right? Because if
yeah,
they are too aggressive, well then
yeah,
they will know that they just don't they if they pay it will be like in for nothing. But if like they're
right,
a good citizen of the dark net or whatever, and
yeah,
they're getting the money and then they're just like not touching
yeah,
this client again for a while,
yeah.
um, they will
True.
make a much
True.
better business.
Yeah, they have their forecasts planned out properly, right?
In their CRM, they're gonna bring back this company in like years to say, hey, are you still interested in like?
Yeah, no, no, that's true. There's this gentleman's agreement among thieves, right? So that's what goes. Good. So yeah, that's one thing. I guess what companies can sort of do is to, because it's not only your employees, even your suppliers or whoever it has any kind of digital connection to your network. There was this other company I was reading about where it was not the company itself, but there was a supplier who had access to maybe some part of software inside the organization, and then that's how they got in basically. And this
Yeah,
this this suppliers are like especially if it's a small factory or somebody who's somewhere in Vietnam or other parts of the world, they're they don't even have the basics of like a firewall or anything in
yeah.
place. They're using
Well, they have a lot
yeah,
of stuff to do, right? They like literally they have to make these complex parts and stuff like that,
right,
and
right.
they can't afford an IT department. Like so,
Yeah,
like it's gonna
yeah,
be one guy that is like set this thing up, or maybe a
yeah.
consultant or whatnot.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
the nature of the supply chain being like all connected make it so that now it's even easier, I would say, in like this particular industry to get into. And on top of this, like let's say it's
yeah,
like it's not even connected, right? Let's say you as a company, you made it sure that even your supplier can't trickle like this malware down to your stuff or whatever. Your IT department like did a great job, and your supplier
mm,
is affected, it will affect you. If
right,
this if supplier is down for like a month and you
yeah,
need to recover, and like
true.
he was doing like 90% of your parts,
Mm,
um well guess what, like your business will suffer and you will have
mm,
to figure out. So even though it's your supplier, it's an external company, like education on them and ensuring that they are properly like secured, it's
right.
kind of a at some point like it's too much of a mesh in order to just say like, oh, I'm good, I'm not gonna worry about my partners.
Cool, cool. So, what's your thoughts? Before we move to the next risk, what can companies do? What should they do digitally? And there's always right. So I understand as maybe a small or medium-sized manufacturer, you don't have the same sophistications and deep pockets to invest everything into cybersecurity because your main job is not to do cybersecurity, but to make your product that you're making. Yeah, so what's like some simple things that you would suggest companies could do to ensure their infrastructure is secure?
Yeah, um, I would go a bit against that. I would say like um, that's their core. Like if I would say um, there's a machine in your organization, then when it's breaking, right, your whole
Mm,
thing shut down. You can't talk to your customer. You can't produce any good, and everybody on your payroll has to stop. Right? What do? You ensure that this machine is rolling like really well, and you understand it like in your back pocket, and you can bring consultant to educate you. You can like ensure that all your team is properly trained to like fix it up and stuff like that. But this is a core part of your business now, right? This machine.
Right.
But
Right.
now the thing is, a cybersecurity attack on this machine, which is like your digital infrastructure, can literally bring the whole thing down, right? In the worst case, it will stop everything. In the worst case, you can't not recover, right?
Right.
What if, like let's say in this company, the attacker messed it up and not only like encrypted, but like wiped out all the servers, right?
Right.
And they have no
Right.
backup and stuff. Like
Right.
that could be like literally lethal for a company. So
Right.
on this front, I'll go a bit extreme, but like you need to have a cultural shift. Like welcome to the 2020s. Now every manufacturing and industrial company need to understand that
Right.
cybersecurity is a core component of your operation, and
Right.
need to be baked into the culture. Baked into the
Yeah.
culture, there need to be like constant education, and need to be treated as like a literal important part of doing business in 2020s. That's it. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of things that you can do. I think the best thing is just to link to a blog post that our
Yeah.
cybersecurity engineer put together. There's like
Right.
tips. There's like 2 case studies about like what happened and
Mm.
how they could improve. And there's like 9 resources to know how to protect yourself against ransomware,
Right.
credential stuff, and all this jazz.
Right.
I'll link it directly into the I don't know, the podcast post, and people should definitely check it out.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll just maybe add one more point to it from based on a bit of personal experience. It's not a way to prevent the attack, but at least it gives you some room to or buys you some time and doesn't put you in a situation where you have no option, which is backups, right? So I was once working at a place where this kind of thing happened, and then the guy actually even got our backup servers, right? So he also went and encrypted all the backup servers as well. So like, okay, now what do we do? The only thing was like this physical backup, which was also automatically happening, which he could not access because it was not connected to the network and would only happen when it was connected. Was like, this is how we're able to sort of recover the whole system. So yeah, having a good backup or a failover plan will at least ensure your business continues, because the worst thing that happens is when your business stops. It's not a matter of if anymore. It's a matter of when the attack is going to happen and how prepared you are. That like it's uh, unless if you're connected to the internet, you're gonna there's gonna be a way that somebody's gonna find out how to enter
Yeah.
your infrastructure. It's all about how you prepare yourself for it. Okay, cool. I guess that's pretty much for cybersecurity. What about geopolitical risks, right? So there's
Yeah.
wars, there's rivalries, there is these shortages that happen here and there. Yeah, what's your viewpoint on that? And yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I think this risk was like it's always out there, right? But in the more let's say it, like connected nature of the world, um, there's like no choice but to kind of stay current about what's happening, because even if it doesn't touch you right now, let's say it touch like tier 7 supplier, right? Um, it will still impact you. Like if, for instance, I was reading this thing about um, in early 2021, I guess, or yeah, 2021, 22, there was a shortage of magnesium. I don't know if it's still going. I think so. In China, because of the fuel that they couldn't get the fuel to do the stuff, because they had target about being more green, right? So the production of and the extraction of that material was impacted, um, which impacted the steel production, right, in some other part of the world, which ended up impacting like everyone that has to make something with steel. And that's a geopolitical kind of risk, because it's based on the policy that China decided to put forth. Yes, there are other part of the world where you can get magnesium, but the where you can actually uh, process it is kind of always concentrated to the same spot, and these things are all running on the same kind of type of fuel. So this is one example, and same thing like for the Ukraine-Russia war. Um, especially aerospace company, like they were pretty impacted on this, and it's kind of like it happened overnight, right? Well, it didn't happen overnight, but like people like when it actually did happen, it was a mess. And then it's like if you were doing any kind of business with Russia, now you in the Western world kind of can't do it anymore. Otherwise, it's gonna be some brand impact on it. So there's kind of no ways of not thinking about this. And the supply chain is too is too global. Like you have to figure out where your stuff are coming from and kind of have this view of a more holistic view of the supply chain where everything is connected, and like check out if whatever event is impacting any of your point, and if yes, do you have built-in flexibility and visibility in your chain to do something about it, right? If just knowing about the event, I don't think it's enough. I think the way to mitigate this risk is pretty simple. Is you have visibility, and you're gonna have to like modify a bit your supply chain based on that. And then you can do some risk assessment, like, oh, Russia is like amassing troop in the border of Ukraine. Well, time to call up your local suppliers, right? Like this is the time to do that
Yeah,
and
yeah,
move some production,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's true. Even something like COVID, right? Doesn't happen overnight. It took its time. It started somewhere in Feb, and then we had March, we had April. That's when lockdowns slowly started. So I guess, like you said, this having this access to information and being always on top of things. Because again, there's very few geopolitical events that happen overnight without any warning signs, right? It starts off with some warning signs. If you're good at understanding data, you can start to see, like you said, right? Russia took, I think they were putting their troops maybe 2, 3 months before the actual war started. So you could actually
Yeah.
already start, I mean, smarter companies would have started to see, okay, this is our backup plan, or this is plan A, plan B, plan C. Yeah, definitely. I think that's one way to look at it. And there's, I guess, wars and revolutions get the most attention, but there's other geopolitical stuff that also exists, like tariffs. What happened between U.S. and Canada at the time of Trump, where we had this whole change in tariff prices and stuff like that, which also is a geopolitical risk to begin with. So, your thought on this, Yasin, is like try to have as much monitor as much warning signals as you can before, and then have some good failover plans in place
Yeah,
to move
that's
forward.
that should definitely have a lot more flexibility that everyone is currently having right now in their supply chain. You need to up that. You need to be able to have more flexibility in how you operate and more visibility. I think that's the only the only way to mitigate that risk, like for real.
Right. Cool, cool. And I think also having good impact analysis will help you understand how deep something can cut inside of your supply chain ecosystem. So not all of the geopolitical events will affect you, but there are some that will affect you more than the others, and you've got to put your attention onto those ones.
And if you play your card right here, it can also be beneficial for your business or whatever. Like if you're the only aerospace company that didn't mess up, let's say, for
Right,
whatever reason, you were stocking your stuff, while
right,
everybody's down, you're like, good, like price going up for me too, and I have the planes and whatever. So you can capitalize on these
right, right,
and doing that. Not only your business is not like negative impact, but like it can grow on top of this. Like
right.
never. What was the quote from Churchill? I think it was never let a good crisis go to
Yeah,
waste. Right?
yeah, true, true. Cool. Okay. Speaking of the crisis that me and you have heard so many times from from I guess everybody we have met in the manufacturing industry, this whole dilemma of labor shortage and what's going on right now in terms of labor shortage for both buyers and suppliers. Yeah. Tell me a bit more about what you think about it, and yeah, what's your experience has been when talking to those buyers and suppliers.
Yeah, it's a mess. Like I was like I visit like I said I visited a lot of people, um, And at first I was like, oh, this seems to be a simple problem to solve, right? And it's not. It's really not. It's not a simple problem at all. It seems to. I was literally at that friend mine, and I was like, what the hell happened here? Like there was job posting everywhere. Like I was driving into like the main road, and then there was like some big banner like, hey, we're looking for 7 shop floor guys. Hey, we're looking like 3 dudes. I'm like, where are they going? Like where are they? Where are all of these people that were there prior to like those posts being put up? um, but the thing here is that business wise, let's say we remove the labor parameter, it's going well in most industries that I've seen. Right? It's going super well. There is more contract to be had in, let's say, aerospace. There's more contract now in manufacturing. There's much more need for production. But when you factor the labor shortage into this thing, it has direct negative impact on the buyer and the supplier capacity to grow business. So on the buyer side, they can't get procurement folks. They just can't. Like it's very difficult to get anyone in procurement right now, which means it will directly impact their way of finding suppliers and managing the contract and then just managing them and getting the whatever they need source and bought, right? Same thing for talents and whatnot. So it means that on their side, their operation is throttled by that. And I've seen a buyer that can't innovate and can't leverage like more business from their customer because they can't hire and procurement, or like their procurement folks like just left. And this is happening. Like now the tech talent shortage, right? We're seeing it in the procurement directly. Now they are the hot guys and gals, and then everybody wants them, and then the best one will leave and then will get poached somewhere else. So this is on the buyer side, right? On the supplier side, what's happening is very, very interesting because there is a big labor shortage, right? And there's way more jobs for everyone. Everybody in North America that I've talked to, they almost don't accept more jobs. They actually accept less. And the reason for this that is happening is that they have much lower capacity. They are hit by all of the other risks that we've talked about. Let's say also raw material risk, like they can't buy their material, right? If they can't buy their material because it's an exotic alloy from Russia and whatever and Ukraine, and they can't source it, well, they can't get the jobs that they need, right? But there's some jobs that they can get, but they can't produce them because they don't have enough folks on the shop floor. So what I've seen on the manufacturing side
Right.
is very weird. Like they can't attract talent. They can't retain them neither. So they have a difficulty getting talent into their shop. So like a lot of people are doing like figuring out like how to get new employees. They're flying them over from like Tunisia, from like France, from like Morocco, whatever, and then they're literally doing everything they can to make them work here. It's a long process. It might not fit with the culture or whatever. It might be difficult, but like that's kind of the only way they have. And like the people that they hire, they have a lot more. There's a lot of shortage, so they have a lot more opportunities. So they can decide to not stay there if the job sucks. And some jobs in manufacturing absolutely sucks because it's the same thing you're doing over and over again, right? And I've heard some managers say, we hired we'll call in French a journalier. It's like a freelance, I guess, guy that came in. After the diner pose, he just left. He didn't say a word. He just walked out the door
Right.
because like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. Like that's it. That was my contribution to this thing. I want to get paid by the way. So that's at this point, right? So it's hard to attract talent. Some of the jobs are just like boring, right? Some of the let's say welder, they have to get paid super high, and like almost no one want to do does that job, like in most industries.
Right.
So there's a shrinking of the labor here. So they, even though they are have more opportunity to make money and then increase improve their business, if they can't attract the talents, that's a big risk, because then you can't do the business. So, but what is interesting here that and on the supplier side, they've invested a lot in like quality of life for the suppliers. I was at Saguenay visiting like supplier for Rio Tinto, and it's pretty amazing. Like they have good working condition, and they make sure that every one of their guy on the shop floor is like having a great time. They have like Friday off. It was half of the Friday off. They finished at like noon. I was like, shit, man, I want to have
Yes.
this too. It's a good job. They're doing all of these like innovation project, not to make more money, but just like to keep people like stimulated and engaged and stuff. There's other people that are doing like optimization so that the same person can be much more productive than before. Yeah, so I don't have any answer for like how to mitigate risk right now. My thought process was like just pay people more, but there's other
Right.
component out of this. If people don't want to work in
Yeah.
that industry, or you can't attract talent, it's difficult. The best shop that I've visited that didn't have this problem much was one that were run by like teachers.
Mm.
And the hack they're doing is like if they're teaching actively or they have been teaching, they're filming interns in there, and then they're training
Yeah.
them, and then
Yeah.
offering them a job afterward.
Right.
And this, well, like the shops are kind of becoming almost a new like kind of university for like manual
True.
stuff, right?
True.
So
True.
that was the most effective thing that I saw so far.
Yeah, so in my visits, what I've seen is like there's like three components to it. The first is things you can control, which is the schedules, right? So make sure you use technology to ensure your work schedules are properly optimized. I see a lot of companies always focus on getting more and new and more people, and they're always like crying for new people. But their internal system is not optimized for the highest level of efficiency. There's people I mean, like just a simple example, you have your CNC guys and then you have your packaging guys, and you have one packaging guy. So even if you hire more CNC guys because you want to cut more metal, there's only one guy. He's going to be the bottleneck for you. So just understanding your workflow and optimizing what's the best route that your shop floor should take sometimes help you uncover hidden capacity that you didn't know existed, and then you basically know how you want to move forward. So that's one thing I've seen some good companies when they get into this problem of, hey, we need more people, actually just take a deep breath and go and understand how their process currently is working and what's the throughput coming out of it. And then second, like you said, right, it's about time that there's better working environment for these guys. And now, especially given the shortages, there's a lot of companies who are innovating into creating that good environment for their people, to giving them the same benefits, giving them extended benefits, providing for them a safe environment to basically work, giving them flexible schedules. I even saw that like some of them are like, okay, you just need to complete your hours in the day, but you have like flexible schedule of how you want to move forward from there. And then also the other thing is, again, leveraging technology, expand your pool of people. There's freelancers that you can always use. There's some softwares that help you connect with those people, so that's also always good. And yeah, I guess it's time that even this sector starts to innovate in this area and
Yeah.
tries to actually fight for good talent.
Yeah, and like this is very interesting because in all the shops that like were very serious about this, they all had like a bunch of innovation project that was aiming directly at like automating some like tasks that were absolutely mind numbing, or improving like the productivity of the folks. So this
Right.
is was cool because I was um, in this welding assembly shop. They were making like huge thing, and it was like, I think this was an event of some sort. And one of the worst job in the welding that you can have is like when you're in this type of vent and you have to like uh, break it open like this, or and then weld it back and stuff, because you're in a very enclosed space, right? The fumes are absolutely toxic, and then you have to work like this, right? With your welding gun like face literally up from you. So what they were doing is they were inventing this kind of robotic arm that could cut in one shot and then weld it in one shot, so that they don't have to put like their folks in there. And that was absolutely cool, because I was like, you're spending all of this money so that you ensure that your welder, which is your scarce resource, have an absolute good time, and you're doing it with them to make this project go. And it was stimulating. Like, I have no experience in welding, and I was there, like, shit, this is actually some next level automation robotic project. And their shop was cool for this, because they had this little place where they can do this type of exploration and innovation. And the guy told me, like, the folks are staying a bit later also, just to like tinker with this and to be stimulated by that. It's a good, I think the labor shortage, I think paradoxically will have a good impact in the manufacturing sector in the long run, because I think it will push them to modernize a bit their work culture, the work environment, and just the working condition in general.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I really like your idea that you mentioned of like hiring people when they have no experience or zero experience and sort of like training them through. I guess again, it's a long-term investment, but when you get folks like that, then you know your churn rate is very low. They're not going to leave because they're already very grateful for you to provide that training, and they're going to stick with you as long as you provide a good, healthy working environment. So I think that's like absolutely. I think this whole labor shortage is like a blessing in disguise as well. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, don't
Okay.
tell that to suppliers though, that can get the contract right now. Sorry for the
True.
suppliers looking at this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Then we come to the next point, which is quality and recalls and everything that happens because of the losses that occur because something is not produced right. This is definitely one of the big supply chain risks, and I can remember um, some meetings where you kind of like are towards the end of that manufacturing full flow, and then some part breaks because it was not produced to the best quality, and yeah, this stuff happens. What do you do, and what do you do to avoid it?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, usually when this happens is, and this is kind of linked to all of the other risks. Like, let's say you have this suppliers, A1, the guys like the guys over there are doing like super good jobs, um, and then you can't work with them anymore for whatever reason. They don't have capacity because they have a labor shortage, or they are in the war zone, whatever it is. What do you do then? Right? You're gonna have to source somebody else and get another suppliers. Maybe like for this particular component, you never sourced it anywhere else and stuff. So you're gonna start to find people, and then guess what? It's very hard to find information about supplier that is accurate, because even their website is not up to date because they have other stuff to do, right? So you're gonna have to take some bets. And what happened when you take some bets with low data quality is that it's more of a gamble than a bet, right? So that's kind of one of the things I've seen more and more happening. And there's the other component of it is that if you've been doing business with the same folks for a while, um, the exchange of information doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be like the drawing can be literal, like kids drawing, like with Crayola, and then you give it to the suppliers, and you understand what you need because he saw where it goes, and he already did this thing like 6 times already. So they just do it, and then they're like, good, and then that's it, right? And it's been like this for generation. There was one supplier in aerospace company that told me, like, the new people in the buyer company, ask them what they should buy because they've literally made the drawings, so they know, okay, it's this part number that you need for this thing. Like just let me know and I'll just make it, and no need for the drawing, like I have them, right? That's at this level that some of these suppliers are critical.
Mm.
So like that's one of the main issue. Then it's like if your information transfer is poor, and on top of this you have to go with suppliers that you don't know if they have the same capability or not, and you don't have the same history that you have with the other ones, you end up like making literal gambles. And if on top of that you're trying to minimize the price, like that's a big
Mm.
recipe for a
Yeah.
low quality part, right? So I think there's all of this coming together, but it all boils down to like better visibility about what you did in the past with people and a better transfer of information. That's it. It's not really about manufacturing, right? If you know, let's say hypothetically, you have the supplies and you know that there's not a pool of supplies that are as good because you have some historic that they did with like other company, and you have like the exact machine that they do, and like the profile match like kind of well. And on top of this, your drawings are kind of standardized and stuff, and then the information you're conveying is anybody can understand it, right? Um,
Yeah.
then making the switch when you need to is much more calculated than if you didn't have that. So in quality, I feel like that's one of the main issue that we're seeing these days, and I've seen a few examples of that. It all comes down to like having access to good information and being able to communicate whatever your engineering team need to get done
Mm.
properly.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I also remember having a conversation with an executive from I guess it was aerospace company, and they were saying like, so they had internal incentive to give bonuses to their team because they would get them better prices. So their procurement folks would always crush and crush and crush for the lowest price. But what eventually ended up happening is their suppliers went out of business because they can bully, they're a big buyer, they can bully their way into it. But
Mhm.
then if it's not a profitable business for a supplier for a very long period of time, what do you think is going to happen? That you not have that supplier anymore. And then you go and try to scramble another guy who can make this part and who can do something. And again, like you said, there's this whole visibility problem. Like you know more about restaurants and how good your burger shop next door or 10 miles away from you is than you know about suppliers. There's just nothing
Yeah.
out there. You go to their websites, they have these wonky websites which were made 10 years ago through a freelancer, no idea what they're capable of, no reviews, no unbiased reviews or nothing to know about them, and then you're kind of like
Yeah,
stuck. You just
it's very difficult, and like it's still a word of mouth industry. Like that's it. And there was one guy that was doing hydraulic pump. I think that's what they were doing, and they said that the website is just so that when someone referred them, they go there and they have their contact information. That's the sole purpose. So what does it mean? It means that if it's not word of mouth and somebody stumbled into this, there's
yeah,
no of it, right? And when you look at the
yeah,
data, it just is. And to your
yeah.
point before about like procurement folks like haggling for the smallest price and stuff, this is a real problem. I had a supplier from GE, actually, GE Aviation, that told me that throughout like all of his history with all of the other companies working like BRP, all of this, the worst thing that happens is when the procurement folks are going past a line that he called it something like the the knowledge line, right? So at some point, like if you're trying to get down the price, right? The one that is the best fit will win, right? Let's say like the guy is the exact same machine to do that. He
Mhm,
done this for like all of the client. It's his part, right? You're
mhm.
gonna get like as you're pulling people together to bid, you're gonna get over here. This is a good line, right? You don't want to overpay, right? But then there's this other shop over there has no idea how to make this part, right? They missed a detail or they never done it before. So what will happen if like you keep pushing for lower price? This guy will bid, right? He will quote. And the actual optimal person will they say, well, like how would you do it? Like, yeah, this thing gonna break if you're doing it this way with like this other thing. And
Yeah.
this person is just like, no, I think it can work, and then he do that, right? And then the partnering
Yeah.
person is like, that's it, I got it, right? I got all of them. I
Yeah.
found the supply, and then they try to
Yeah.
do, and it's breaking, right? It's gonna
Right.
break. It's gonna be a mess. And one instance, what happened was that the supplier messed it up, right? And he knew that he messed it, like he knew that he messed it up before he shipped it to the other supplier. So this supplier was talking to the optimal supplier for this hydraulic pump, and he was saying like, "Hey man, I need you to help me there. I'm gonna lose money on this. I know, but I've messed it up bad. Like, can you just like quickly like tell me how to fix it and stuff?" And then the guy was like, "Okay, I can help you out," and he did help them, and that's it. Like that's that no one is happy in this case. Like the
Mm.
company is not happy because there's going to be some delay, quality will be bad. The supplier is not happy because it's not making any money. The other optimal supplier is not happy. You pissed off everybody, right? So there's also this part that is a variable, is when you're looking at like proctoring something, the price is just one of the variable. It should not be the only one. If it's the only one, you're gonna get past this knowledge line. It's gonna be bad. So you have to take into consideration like the capacity of the suppliers, the relationship that you have with them, and all of these the other parameters that we've talked about of the risk, in order to ensure that whatever you're sourcing is good for the business now and in the future.
Right, right. No, definitely, definitely. Cool. Yasin, I guess that brings us to the end of this podcast. Thank you again so much for your time, and thank you to all the listeners for making it through. Please do leave us your feedback and subscribe to the podcast. Again, if you have any risks that you would like to share or any stories from any of the risks that we discussed, please do get in touch. And yeah, wish you a great day ahead. Thank you.